There. Okay, mic is off.
Is it okay, Connie's gonna sit here?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
Up here.
It looks like I can bite into that. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Tonight's regular council meeting is being live streamed, audio and visual devices in use, and we'll record just the meeting. So I will turn this over to whoever wants to speak.
What's the agenda thing? Okay, so for library lease, budget, capital budget, and water line break.
Okay, where do you want to start? First, I'm Connie Harder. I'm not sure I know everybody. If anybody's wondering, I was newly appointed to the board as chair, January, December? September, a little while ago. It seems like a long time ago. So I'll be honest, there's been a lot of discussion, I believe, between you folks and the previous board chair and our board. And I'm not 100% sure where all of that is. I do have a copy of our latest lease that I'm not sure that the board had really seen or okayed or really had a look at. But like, not all of you council members have library memberships, I don't think. So do you have any questions about what the library does or who it services?
Not me, anyway.
So I have a little infographic that Katrina so kindly created for us. So while we're talking, you can have a quick boo at that. Sorry, I'm one for me. Thanks.
Okay, go ahead.
I've seen it.
So I did just throw in, we got about 30 minutes.
That's fine.
At 7.
Well, I don't think we're actually going to get to the nitty-gritty of the lease, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody has some information on exactly what my Standard Municipal Library Board does. So the board is responsible for the management of the library and the personnel in the library. So we have 1 part-time staff and 2 emergency personnel who come in and look after things if Adrena is not able to make it. The board is not paid. We don't have honorariums. Our board chair of over 10 years left with a plant and a card. So we put in about 800 hours roughly of volunteer hours per year for the library. So that's kind of the gist of it. I think the history of it, and Jolene can help me out with this, is that it was kind of a joint venture to purchase the building that the library is in right now, with the majority of the funds being raised by the library board. So you folks at the village hold the deed to that, yes? Just to make sure I'm correct on this. Okay. So with that, I guess the library board can't sign this lease. And the reason that it can't sign this lease is that a lot of what's in here is that the maintenance of the actual building, we can't be responsible for because we don't own the building. So it's not our building to repair. We are absolutely more than happy to do the wear and tear on the inside. We replaced a toilet a couple of weeks ago. We've done the floors on the inside. We've appreciated the value of the building, but we can't be responsible for things like the roof, even though we have paid for that in the past. We can no longer do that. And that's kind of, I think, where the majority of the problems lie with the lease or rental agreement that we have.
Guess I got a question. So how many years has this agreement been in place?
Oh, long time. It's from September 9th, 1991. Now, what is that? Okay, so this was after the library was built and the money was raised by the board. And the land was acquired by the board for the village and blah, blah, blah. So in the minutes of that meeting, when it came to insurance, it says the library and contents are no longer insured through Gates agencies. So that was previously insured by the library board. Pardon me. The Village of Standard has included the library and contents in a blanket policy. This also includes liability insurance. Sorry.
Okay.
Don't talk
You want
much.
some water?
It's up to my head. So from that date, over 30 years ago, the village has been responsible for the insurance on the building. We can't insure it.
No, I know that.
So when we're being asked to cover costs that can be insured, that's difficult for us because we
So I,
don't have that insurance backing that you do.
no, I understand the insurance part of that.
Yeah.
So how is the village supposed to budget, I guess, for maintenance of a building? When we don't charge rent to, right?
Wait, hold on.
Just, I understand, but I'm kind of asking you that.
Well, we don't on all the other facilities. They pay for everything.
Mhm.
Maintenance, repairs, insurance.
So which
They lease the buildings from the
Yeah,
village
building-
and then, but they pay back everything that we pay for them. Like the insurance, the Egg Society pays it 100% back. If we do a repair or whatever, they've had to do a water line repair where the curling rink had to pay it back. Because it was on the property.
Sorry, and so this is the Standard Rosebud Arena?
Yep.
Mhm.
And what
Arena.
other buildings?
Curling rink.
Mhm. Anything else?
That'd be it.
Okay. So the difference, I think, is that we're a municipal library. So we are an extension of the municipality. Those are community buildings. There's a difference.
Well, not just is there a difference, they have a way of raising funds. We do not. We literally don't have, we don't charge, we're rent for, the rent, like, they can charge more for the ice time, they can charge more for the fees of people coming in. We are handicapped at how we can raise funds. Our only way to raise funds in any significant amount is to do fundraising and go looking for donations. That is not the same as the curling rink. That is not the same as the Egg Society. They have ways of raising funds, and if they need to raise more funds, they can raise rates. We can't.
And we essentially run the library on behalf of the village.
Yeah.
So we are with the village in that respect. 100%, although we're hands off. And we can't, we don't have a revenue generation stream. All our revenue, or all our fundraising goes to programming.
And in the past, the board has been super happy to chip in and do things like the big roof repair and that sort of thing. But at the time, the revenue, like the funds were there. So COVID pretty much decimated the library board. And really, that's the reality of our situation, is that we do enough fundraising and we have enough small term provincial funding to manage the actual programming and operation of the building. So we have been asked, well, can't you do casinos? Yeah, we do. Absolutely, 100%. But it's not guaranteed revenue. It's every 3 years. And the other side to that is that they are now talking about putting digital for the tables, because that's where we get most of our money, is allowing them to pay digitally and not through money. So they're talking that in the next 2 to 3 years, there may not be that casino revenue generation there too.
So that's just kind of like through another group, like through, what's that, the community enhancement, like friends.
Yeah.
Like we ourselves can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we get provincial funding.
Yeah.
So we essentially walk around with our hand out all year long in order to do it. Our finances are tight, really tight. We don't have extra for a full-time librarian. Sorry, Adrina.
No, I know.
And this is kind of where we're at. Like, we have no problem paying for the wear and tear on the inside, 100%. We do carry insurance on our contents because that's a liability issue for us. That's okay. Can't see them on anyways. And you know, so we're there. Like, we're trying to do that. And then we get bills for things like the service line and we think, holy cow, like, where is this coming from? So this is where we're at.
I get that, but the sad thing is that unfortunately, we discussed it last meeting. I believe you brought it up. So that has been in this service agreement for however many years, if that's the library's responsible for that. So that has never been brought back to us by your board.
Fair enough.
So now we're running under without an agreement signed. So do you want to speak to what you said last week or last month with an unsigned agreement?
Oh, well, just typically the governing document is the old agreement.
Actually, because we hadn't, we had a time limit, we fall under the month-to-month rule under the Landlord's Tenant Act, and we are considered under that. Because there's not a lease in place right now.
And then, you know, like, you look into the Municipality Services Act, and whose responsibility is that water connection, the water? And also, why wasn't it insured? These are questions that we have.
You can't insure for that.
Yes,
Water
you
line break.
can.
Fortunately, we've already inquired with our insurance and you cannot.
And I inquired with the same insurance, and you cannot do main water lines, but you can do service lines, which is water in, sewer out, electrical, cable, all of that.
It's not what we were told.
So we have it here.
Yeah.
We have copies of it if you'd like to see it and maybe talk with them. So yeah, there is coverage for service lines, and the village is able to get the coverage. And so these are kind of some of the questions that we have, right? Like we are absolutely not able to get insurance on the lines because we don't
Own the
sorry,
building.
because we don't own the building. I have one left. So.
So she says there, she notes that there is no coverage for deterioration, wear or tear, rust and corrosion.
But that's the requirement of the village to ensure that they're in good service repair.
Well, they are, until something happens.
We can't
right?
pick them up yearly and look at them.
Yeah,
That's true,
So-
but
because that's what she told us, that wear and tear was not covered.
was it wear and tear that caused it?
Well, what do you
caused-
think an
caused it?
insurance company's gonna say? They're gonna say,
They're gonna send an assessor out and they're gonna look at it and they're gonna see what.
and they're
caused
gonna
the
say it
damage.
was wear and tear or corrosion.
Not all the time. I do this all the time in my job, and there are a lot of times where it's not wear and tear. It can be shifting of land where the land literally collapses the pipe. It can be roots. It can be multiple insurable things.
Well, we'll have to talk to her more.
And I just like to mention that there,
Thank you, Beth.
as far as the capital things that we have done in the past, we were able to do that because at the time, back quite a while ago, back when I was on council, we were receiving about, I believe it was either $4,500 or $4,600 that was meant to go into a savings. That was removed due to financial constraints, I understand, but that eliminated our ability to continue to save towards capital expenditures. And we can't use any kind of casino funds for capital expenditures. Basically, if we get money from somebody who does a casino, it is for programming and not even for payment of our employees, not for capital on the building. So we have no real way of raising funds for capital expenditures. And like Connie said, when COVID hit, we were shut down for, what was it, about 2 years?
Almost 2 years.
And we were still paying bills. We were still, those didn't go away. And so we had nobody coming in. We weren't fundraising because there's really no way for us to fundraise. So that depleted our savings down to the point where we're scraping for any and everything.
Much like you guys said, right? Everybody's been there.
Everybody has.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I just, how many memberships do you have? I've just been curious for,
We have
since COVID.
227.
Nice.
So it's gone up
Yeah.
yearly, right? So that's a wonderful thing for us. Yeah. Any other
So
questions?
did it go up or down after COVID?
It went up.
Good. Good. No, I got nothing else. I'm just curious.
So there's no denying that there has been a long, positive, rich history between the
Mhm.
library board and the village of Stanley. We appreciate that. We recognize that. You know, like it's very important. But where we are today is we cannot be responsible. We cannot sign an agreement that makes us responsible for those big ticket items that enhance the actual asset because we don't own the asset.
Okay. Any other questions? I think we're gonna have to sit down and I'm gonna say this again, is that normally the lease agreements go between you guys and staff, right?
Mhm.
And then they come to us when you get things worked out. So I think I'm gonna recommend that you guys go back and forth on the lease agreement till we can come to an agreement with it, right?
Well,
Or, yeah, you
it's
can
not gonna
start.
work because they won't sign an agreement. They won't
So where
sign
do
a
we go
lease.
next?
I am not sure. I've never had, I mean, I've gone back and I've got a lease agreement here, a bylaw that goes back to 19, oh my goodness, hold on a second here, because I just found these. And it states the same thing as all these other ones. I got 1991, there was one, 1990, 89. And it's that the library would be absolutely responsible for the use of the land, buildings, and facilities for the operational and maintenance costs, including all utilities, therefore, except as here and after set out, which is you're exempt from property taxes and things like that.
Happy to pay.
But the village
utilities
pays the insurance, has always paid
on the
insurance.
buildings,
Yeah.
and we pay the insurance
On the
on the contents.
Mark, what was that you were talking about? There was a $4,000 per annum.
There was I believe, a $4,500 annual amount that we got from
The village.
the village, and it was understood that we would put, I believe, 3,000 of that or 3,000 or 4,000 of that into savings for capital expenditures. That has all been used up since we paid for the ramp and the roof and all of that, and we did put some of the money that, if we raised enough money to cover our expenditures for the year, we would put them into the savings sometimes, just so that we had it there. But again, that was put into savings and it wasn't earmarked necessarily for capital expenditures. We put it in savings, and then if we could use it for capital expenditures, we would, but it was also there to kind of cover if we had a shortfall for paying for the running and the operations of the building.
Yeah.
So we no longer get the $4,500. Is kind of
What do we
the
give you
end.
now?
1,500.
15.
And that's the minimum so that we can actually get our provincial funding.
I had just looked back, so this goes back to 2009. Till 2012 was 3,000, and then for whatever reason, it was 6,500 in 2013, and then onwards, it's been 1,500. So that's what I was able to find.
So it went down in 2013.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, 2013, there was a $6,500 payment, and then from 14 on, it's been 1,500.
So 10 years.
We've got, so.
And I don't recall why.
Okay.
So if we were to go back to doing something like that, would that help you guys sign this lease agreement? Because we can't operate without a lease agreement.
100%, we cannot operate with that. We cannot sign something that says absolute responsibility. We don't like that term. It needs to have an end date on it because that is important too.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, we are happy to say if we get that 4,500, then we put the 3,000 into a capital asset, maintenance fund. And then once that's used up on whatever kind of comes up, then that's our responsibility, end of story. But we can't be absolute responsible for something we don't know.
Well, not just that absolute responsibility, if it's anything like absolute liability. What that means is that if something were to happen, we would be guilty until proven innocent. So what that means is that if somebody comes in, does something, and we don't know who, what, or like the graffiti that was on the doors and stuff like that. We have to be able to prove that we weren't involved in any way, shape, or form. That's what absolute responsible is. Absolute liability. It's the same thing as if in the auto industry, if you hit a pedestrian, the person who's driving is absolutely liable for that accident. They have to be able to prove that there was no way for them to not hit that person. So that's the problem that we're having with the absolute terminology, because absolute is absolute.
It's just not in our best interest or our stakeholders' best interest to sign something that says that.
Now, I'd be more than willing to sit down and hash things out and try and find something that we can both agree on. Whereas, we would, be responsible for the operation, and be reasonably responsible to maintain it be reasonably responsible for the operations. Like we should, but the word absolute puts
That's wording.
it's wording, but
So
wording
no,
matters.
that's what I'm saying. So you sit down and
We hammer out the wording.
you just hammer out the wording and make it right.
Yeah.
May I suggest, if the library is the one that doesn't want to sign a lease agreement, that you create a lease agreement and bring it back to the next council meeting?
No,
'Cause-
not the next council
We'll bring it
meeting.
back to you.
Bring it back to
Oh,
you.
to us, yeah, but
Yeah,
I'll bring
and
it
then
to
you
the next
bring it to
council.
the next
Yes,
council meeting.
no,
Yeah.
sorry, that's what I meant to
Sorry,
say.
I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that sound like or do you want to have
Because
somebody come and sit
We
here in
just
the
keep
office?
coming
and-
up with the same thing because we're used to the same
This is-
format. So
Right.
if this is what you guys want, I don't know your needs. So list them or say you'll be responsible for this, this and that.
We can come up for sure with a framework and we can go from there.
Or you come here and work together.
Yeah, we can
We
do
can
that too.
as well.
One person, pick somebody from your board to come here and sit with Yvette for an afternoon or a day when Yvette's here or
But
Jen's here.
it works better if you guys have all your points together. So as your board, get together and decide,
Mhm.
okay, what is it we want to pay for? What do we not want to pay for? And then we can get it together, but we can't do up something that we know. Then we come back and we go, no, we don't like that, right?
Yeah. No, fair enough. I'm
Tell
not
us
sure what
what
has
you
happened
want.
in the past. We had kind of
Yeah.
gone through that process,
Yeah.
but we will do that process again. and
Perfect, yeah, because we keep going back and forth like this and we'll create a document, but then it comes back and it's not quite there. But I think, yeah, you guys need to give all your points.
I think it'd be easier if
There's,
your board presents forward with what you would like to see on it and how you would like it presented.
yeah,
And then we can go
So
that
now
way.
that we've come up with a little bit on that, so do you want to move forward to budget? Or do we want to talk about this too or not?
which budget, or like our budget?
no, budget basically was to
We just have
decide about the
mentioned-
water line break, right?
Okay.
But they don't want to be responsible for
Okay.
that, so.
So just a question, if there were funding available for you guys to create a capital account, like from the village, like it was
Before.
before, then this document would, less the word absolute, would be workable. Is that
With
correct?
some modifications, yeah.
Yeah, there's a few modifications in there other than the absolute, but I mean,
Because do you agree that it makes sense if you're the board running the library, that you look after the building even if you don't own it? We understand that you can't have, it's challenging to earn capital funds,
mhm.
but we're not really running the library. So for us to manage the building, that's why the lease is like this, right?
Right, so, but in manage the building, you mean be responsible for everything that the building entails and the property? Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
Yeah, as
Yeah.
now, because what I understand is that what I would propose is broken down is that it was ran this way so that the library board was fully responsible or absolute or fully responsible for the building and the lands. And it had funding supplied by the town for the management of that building. Consequently, that funding has
Mhm.
not there. And so we find ourselves in this predicament. Is that fair?
Yeah, with COVID, it's depleted your savings.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And we just haven't, since then,
Yeah.
that's stayed where it's at. We just haven't been able to.
No, and that's understandable. As Mike said, with the funding that was provided, you could build up the funding there, but unfortunately.
And it will take us a few years to get up to the point where we'll have enough funding for certain things.
Oh, absolutely. It wouldn't happen overnight, but I think as long as we're all on the same page, if you take this back, review it, what you guys would like to see on it, and then as Martin said, you sit with the vet and kind of work it out, then I think we can use that as the foundation for moving forward. It'll put us all on the same page.
Well, and likewise, the village could have a trust account where that excess $3,000 would sit. And then when something needs to be repaired, we have a discussion and the village can decide what needs to be repaired. And when that money is depleted, the money is depleted.
Yeah.
So that would be fine too.
Yeah, yes. I think the challenge for us would be that we wouldn't have the same documentation that your board should have on the legacy of the building, like what has been your capital costs since inception, right?
Mhm.
And then to build an asset management plan, right? And I don't know, Jen's built asset management plans for the village so that we can maintain our capital accounts for managing all the stuff that we can manage, right? So if you guys have the documentation through time of what it costs to manage that building, then you would know, okay, this is what it's cost on these instances over the time frame, and then go forward. What does your asset management plan look like? And then what's the funding for the assets?
Yeah.
To manage it through time, right?
Yeah.
Well,
No.
Does that make sense?
Lori presented that kind of information in our last meeting.
Yeah, and
She had a rundown of the costs.
Yeah,
Costs.
we did bring it to, and not board meeting, that was just meeting between,
Yeah.
and Lori and us, and, I mean,
Oh, right there.
I understand where you're coming from, because, I mean, you guys need to know what it would cost to replace the roof, or, and what the age of the roof is and everything like that.
And then what interval?
So you can plan ahead. I mean, the problem that we're gonna have is, we could do that, but if let's say a hailstorm comes through, smashes out all the windows, that's where
Insurance.
insurance would come in, and we can't insure the building.
Which we already have.
Yeah, you guys have insurance for that, so,
Because you own the asset.
Yeah.
yeah, and the water line, the water main line, that's a thing like that, where it's something that happens all of a sudden. And because of the situation that we're in, we do not have the ability at all to pay for it. It's just, we don't have the funds because we don't even have capital for, repairs. We do the maintenance and we try to do it, keep it up to date as much as possible, but really just the small maintenances that would come with running a building is what we really, that's all we really have for right now. So,
So really, when we fix the roof, that should have been something that had gone through your insurance, most likely.
mm,
Depends on if it was aged out. If it was just aged out and leaking, then
Yeah.
insurance would not
I
pay.
can't remember because there might have been some cases over the years where it could have gone through your insurance, but we just assumed responsibility for it because we had the funds available
Yeah.
to us at the time.
and if we could point out that it was due to kids who used to climb up there and walk all over it and they cracked a seam or something like that, that would be insurable. But if it's just due to age, wear and tear, or workmanship, if
If we
it,
had enough hailstorms on it, we probably could have put it through
Yeah.
insurance
that is.
at some point.
Mhm. So, I mean, there needs to be a lot more communication between each other about, you know, what's maintenance and what's and what we can actually, well,
And what's asset protection, right? There's
exactly.
such
That's the word I'm looking
different
for.
things, right?
Yeah.
And like the service line, like Service Connections Municipality Act says that whoever owns the parcel of land is responsible for that.
Mhm.
That's what it says. So for us to sign an agreement that otherwise says no,
Well, I understand that, but that's been in that lease since '89. So how do we go back on that now, right? How do we change it?
We
I
just,
get
we
what
change
that
it.
is,
to-
though.
We can change it now moving forward.
Yeah.
But how do we change it for the past? The only thing I could think of is we do a loan to get it paid for. Or if we can find, I don't know if there's such a thing as a grant or
Connie,
anything.
correct me or not, we were not under lease at
not
that
in
point, were we?
hindsight, no.
Yeah, so we weren't under lease when it first.
I understand that, but you were still under, as Mike said, you're still under the last lease agreement
No,
that
you're
you
not.
did.
We're under month to month.
Yeah, well,
I don't think.
we
May
did-
may I,
Yeah,
point of information, we did approach the library about signing the lease in November,
Mhm.
and so that argument, don't mean to be biased, but the argument is very difficult because we could say library was negligent in not signing. So it's, you need
I'll go
to,
to court over that.
the
I'll
point
go to
is,
court over that.
the point is moving forward. So you want to have, I have these notes here, I'm gonna reassert this one. Or reaffirm this one, that what I'm hearing now is that the new lease needs to not include, the library's wishing it to not include the the maintenance of the building. That the original library, the 1991 signed, was good at the time, but it was not good 2025 and moving forward. That's what I'm hearing, right?
Well, unless the town was giving them capital to go toward a capital account.
Yeah.
Right, and
Which you
that
weren't.
which I have, we'll look back in the budgets. It'll be interesting to see what the story is, why that ended in 2013.
Well, the other thing to all of that is that if the village is interested in going back to that $4,500, the last 10 years would have enough money in there to cover the service line,
Yeah.
right?
And the
So,
thing is we can go with the loan, but the loan is basically going to be paid by if you guys start giving us money for it, like. It's roundabout. I mean, we can do
And
it that way. That's fine.
And Jen suggested the month-to-month lease in one of her agreements. That was never in the original.
Not lease.
No,
Yeah.
it was not, there was never a month-to-month. Jen had suggested
Line.
that
Yeah, I did,
in
and
one
it
of
was
the agreements, but it
declined.
Oh,
was, yeah.
Well, I think it needs to
Yeah.
go forward with, as you said.
Yeah.
Do the framework, we'll get it sorted out, and we can progress and move forward from there.
Like, I think the building itself, it needs to have an asset management plan so that whoever's responsible, whether we keep the lease very similar and the library board's responsible, that the capital management plan is funded. If it comes and it's our responsibility, the village responsibility, then it still needs an asset management plan so that it can be funded, right? So I think there's a critical thing is to have that, to build that asset management.
What year
plan.
was the building built in?
91,
91.
Yeah.
Okay.
and 95% or more of the funding was raised by the library board. And the land was donated by Gordon and Crew.
Maybe we should just sign the building over to you.
It's an option.
Well,
You still have
you
to,
guys paid to build it. Why does the village own it?
Yeah.
well, how would you, then but then the library would have to have a funding, like a capital management board or something, capital management.
You remember why we own the building? The village?
Because
I was just curious. That's all.
Yeah.
Because originally the library.
If they paid for
Rockford doesn't.
Rocky Ford does not own their library.
Yeah, it just when you said that, yeah.
That's why I was just curious. If they paid for it, why do we own it?
But Rocky Ford owns the school.
Yeah, but it's not in there. Yeah, the community center is a different board.
Oh, so it's in the.
In the
old-
community
the
center,
newer school. Not the old Catholic.
where the
school.
hall. Yes, it's in the hall,
Yeah,
the community hall, but that's not owned by the village.
oh, okay.
Community center.
Essentially, I would think, this is my best guess now that I've had a minute to think about it. The library board is a creation of the village,
Okay.
so it makes sense for the village to own the facility. The library board's a volunteer board.
Yeah, no, I was just curious as to why if you paid for it. Why is it on ours? Makes sense.
Rich and beautiful relationship.
And if you get no volunteers, essentially the village has to operate the library. You gotta figure out how.
So the liability is just,
Yes, no.
but I get where you're going with
Well, I'm
that.
just curious, right? It doesn't make sense that you pay for the building, but we own it. That's a pretty sweet deal for the village, really.
Yeah.
Can you mention that again?
It's on tape.
Well, but it is, right? We didn't pay for the building, but we own it.
Essentially,
Yeah.
there's no separation between the library.
And we're very good
Because
friends.
they're not
Yeah.
so-
Anyways, so we're about 7 minutes over
Our half hour.
our next guest.
Yeah.
So, anything else?
Kind of timeline we want to put on this.
Well, I think sooner the better, because I do not want to operate more than 6 more months without a lease agreement.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Because the longer we sit without this and something happens, then we're sitting back in this room fighting about it again.
We're not fighting.
No, but you know what I'm saying.
No,
But
we are absolutely not fighting, but I understand what you're
Negotiating.
saying. We just need to collaborate to
Yeah.
make it a win-win for both parties
Okay.
because our volunteer board just simply can't do it.
No. Well, we're in budget time right now, so it's a good time to have this meeting, right?
Mhm.
Um,
So we should also maybe think about budgeting things like your insurance requirements and plans that your insurance company is asking you to do. Please don't try to offset it onto us.
Yeah, sorry, that was the water escape.
Well, we'll be talking
Yeah.
to insurance anyway on this. Because,
No, I'm talking about your water
Sorry.
escape plan.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
sorry,
okay.
sorry,
Oh, that letter.
yeah. All right,
May I just ask, will the sidewalk then stay as is until
No,
No.
it'll be
this?
repaired in the
Okay,
spring.
just,
yeah, no, it'll be fixed.
So as frost comes out.
okay.
We
We
just
have
have some
That's great.
concerns
2 or
over
3
some of our
jobs.
citizens in front of the library.
I think public safety is a little,
Yeah.
quite important.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I get a number of complaints, so.
Yeah, but you can't do cement in winter.
Yeah, was ready for next weather.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else, board members? Did we forget anything?
Okay.
We do thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Those are decks, yes.
It's present, yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good night. See you guys.
Now you have so many chairs. You don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, really damn chairs.
What's next on the agenda?
Oh.
Am I interested in?
Probably not.
It's probably not.
We can stay and find out.
Well, we're looking for another counselor in the next few months, so.
The chances of me going back on council.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll let it-
Must be a special pair of glasses. Read 'em.
You understand my point about the library board? You can't give the library board title to the
Yeah.
building because the library board as an entity
Yeah,
only exists because the village council creates it.
yeah, no, I get it. Now that you said that, it makes sense, but at
And
the
in
time.
fact, your library board's probably illegal because we used to go for years without remembering to appoint them. There has to be a motion in the works. These people are the library board.
Yeah.
And what's tended to happen over the years that the library board goes out and finds their own replacement. But the
Dad, would you
village
have a minute
never
to
makes
grab me a
note.
water?
Oh, yes. I was- Well, where are we gonna put you? We're gonna have you go on
Over here.
the side.
Okay.
In the gray chair.
Yeah. Let's try to see where.
We're gonna accept the agenda after this last.
No, I already did it. Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry.
Was that for me?
Yeah.
No, we have to. Yeah, we'll do it right now. Yeah, sorry, I missed that. But,
Oh, sorry.
so we didn't accept the agenda before we started,
Thank
so.
No, because we hadn't, that's okay, because we still gotta do an amendment there, so. that's all right. Everybody got a water there?
No, I think it's fine.
No,
They can throw me out anytime.
Is there any other?
You're gonna be stuck in the
I spent
corner.
too many years in jail.
Okay, moving on. Any other agenda additions?
I just added a closed session at the end for personnel. It's in red.
I would like to add something if I could. Talk about putting up some street signs on the west end, so people know where they're going.
Road signs.
You can put that in lot sales if you want.
Or council.
9.8, no, 9.8 new business. Okay.
No, 9.9, sorry. Because there's a 9.8. Sorry, just got all moved around. in the
Where's
columns.
9.8 at?
At the very top. Turn the page over. Do you not see
Okay,
at the very
yeah, I
top?
see it now, sorry.
9.9
9.9.
then,
Road signs,
we'll do 9.9.
yeah. Road signs.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Berry.
I got a superior indication.
See ya. Say goodnight for us. Welcome out. This is Al Cohen. So, do you know anybody in here? You were here once with me.
Yeah.
Martin Goche,
I think I was here, madam.
Mike Worthington, Richard Bryan,
Hi, Richard. Yeah,
Larry
I was
Casey.
sitting over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just turn it right over.
Okay.
In your package, all your information is there for the industrial park. Which is. a big piece of paper.
How long ago it's been since you've been here? It's like November, I think. October. It's been
A long time ago.
Well, that's all right. I'll spread out there.
I just don't want to talk on the floor.
I'll just try and get my shit
Did you
together.
forgot the number of? I had two more children, that were important.
All right,
So. I'll just get them. It's okay.
So
Here, Jack.
council asked me to look at phasing and kind of figure out the logistics of the project. So I prepared this colored plan. Stage one, and we're still working with new training and obtaining the right of way finally. But stage one is where we relocate the existing ditch. And if you look, you can kind of see where the existing goes.
Yeah.
It's kind of that meandering line and it
Yeah.
heads to those twin culverts that are there now. And of course, it floods every spring. So our thought was, there was a proposal at one point to straighten the ditch out, but to bring it down the rear of our own lots.
Mhm.
But the fact that Nutrien really doesn't seem to make use of the land, it just made sense to approach them and get a right of way. So we came up with a design, and we kind of need the dirt from stage one being the ditch. We need the dirt to build the roads, like part of Second Ave and of course Third Street. And with that, there is enough dirt to do all the grading we need for the roadways and quite significantly into the lots as well. So it'll go a long ways.
So like the road plus some approaches,
All the approaches.
all the approaches.
I'm
with
talking
culvert.
everything and including into the lots.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. And then those, is there a ditch there or is it all surface drainage? Or is it subsurface?
it's both.
Okay,
Yeah, so what I've done within the subdivision itself is I didn't want to, I still wanted to utilize the twin culverts that are there now. So what I did is I brought in a storm system, in which case each lot has a what we call a release rate, and it will go into a storm pipe, and it will flow all the way down the street and into the road crossing, and it will then go out the ditch.
okay.
And introducing a storm pipe and into the lots just means that each owner, when they submit their development permit, they have to put some on-site storage. And that's pretty typical and common these days anyway. But this way it isolates just the road drainage to go through the twins and all the lots. And of course, there's like, I've estimated probably close to 30 hectares upstream of this ditch flows into the ditch already. Hence why it's a fairly substantial crossing that we need to put in there. So I prepared some cost estimates for each phase and stage, but maybe we'll start with the overall, which is
Last page.
oh.
What do we were to say? What do we want to do? Like, whoa. Okay.
So within the overall, I've got all the backup correct, but I think the numbers are high in the yellow that we maybe want to refer to. It's going to be about $2 million when it's all said and done. That's including the ditch and all the piping, including power and gas as well, and engineering, of course. So, bottom line, so because we are dividing into phases, of course, there's additional costs when you divide it into phases, like mob and demob has to happen twice now. There's things where we need to plug the end pipes as well at the phase boundary. And that's an additional cost when we plug it and then tie to it when we go on to the next phase. And I've kind of thrown a number there, the average cost per lot, because that'll be a good comparison. It's right at the bottom right on the overall. So
How big is each lot? Approximately.
I think there's 2 acres, aren't there? Or
Acre.
1 acre, yeah.
1 acre for 148,000.
Yeah.
Do we know, we're gonna need to do, get a realtor to tell us that, how
Wouldn't be,
reasonable that is.
it would be an assessor, right?
Yeah, or
It would be the assessor would tell us that.
because we need to know what our industrial lot's selling for in other towns.
Yep.
I mean, we could always build it at a negative with the idea that we're financing it for future tax dollars. But but we will need to understand what we
Need to
ultimately
idea.
sell them for.
Well, and the thing is I don't know who would be the closest to compare it to. Because our has no industrial, Rocky Ford has no industrial, where would be the next closest smaller that would be selling industrial?
Like comes in mind, but
There's
that's now
Carmen.
city. of
There's something
Sudbury.
north,
There's some of that stuff. What about on the highway where there is no town?
Well, there's the stuff on Highway 1 just
Yeah.
west of Strathmore.
Yeah,
Now, I don't think you can look at those because
No.
those are suddenly inflated because of the
access
Arrow.
to the highway.
well, no, they're Arrow, aeronautical big thing coming. It was supposed to start construction this year, so all of a sudden the industrial lots across the highway are suddenly being bought up and developed right now with the advent of the it's like Walmart. You build it, they will come.
there is a place northwest. And it's smaller that,
You're thinking Acme?
is it Acme that's selling
They,
industrial
they
lots?
have a
Oh.
big group that came in,
Bottom all.
Yeah. Bottom Mall.
Yeah, because Bicycle doesn't have any lots
No.
left.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking. I just thought it might help to.
Acme had lots.
Who bought them all?
No.
A mill, like a flour grain mill
Yeah.
company, I forget their name. Yeah.
I wonder what they paid per lot. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, like just the real estate part of that
Oh,
transaction.
we can phone CAO.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Now,
they can all check that out. So we,
the way I've prepared this with the mob and deep mode, for instance, if it was Nibs Developments, their mob would not be $7,500 each time, for instance. So if in the event that they end up doing the work, obviously there's quite a savings there.
Yeah.
But that's a council decision, of course, but that's those are some pretty big numbers when you multiply by 3. That's almost 20 grand with some mob and deep mob if it's in phases kind of thing. So now Jason did mention something to me and I looked at it on the way here. You have a pretty big pile of recycled concrete over there. There's no reason why we can't use that in the approaches.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's a huge pile of not recycled concrete, but just fill dirt. Did you see that?
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, that's the stuff on the right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big pile there. And that would probably be enough to do all the approaches.
Probably.
that would
Because really all we need is 3 to 4 inches of gravel on the approaches, really.
On top of the fill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fill's only 2.5 feet thick anyway.
There's a
at
lot.
the approaches.
There's
a lot
probably
of dirt
enough
there.
there. There's
Oh,
probably enough
probably
there.
more than enough.
It looks like there should be enough to do all the approaches.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, because one thing I've done within my design too is it's always a pain in the butt. Are there any volunteer firefighters here?
You're retired.
Okay, so the hydrants around town that are in the ditches, are they not sometimes a pain in the butt to get to?
Pretty much everything down there is.
Yeah. So what I've proposed, and it's in the design drawings, and I just thought I'd bring it up as a matter of interest, is I've designed a small 2-meter wide approach so that a guy can walk right to the hydrant.
Oh, then the hydrant just sits in the approach.
Yeah.
That's good.
And it's at road level too. It's not down in the darn ditch. So, and it's about $2,000 a piece because you got to put a culvert in too, right? But
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it's well worth it.
Well, I've been there and done that when you're trying to get to a hydrant that's in a ditch full of water or snow or.
Especially this time of year when it's mud too.
This time of year is brutal.
Yeah, you better have some pretty high gum boots.
So no, that's actually not a bad idea. Though.
Yeah. So now the drainage ditch. So if you look at the drainage channel now, we'll kind of circumvent and kind of go in order at this point. It's about 300 grand total, and half of that is in the road crossing itself, because as you can imagine, 30 hectares plus the subdivision coming in.
Which page are you looking at for that?
Page 1.
Drainage.
Drainage channel.
Page 1.
Yeah. So
That's,
with GST, it's 300 grand.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
that's stage one.
Yes, that's it's showing us stage one on the drawing, but that's all the cut, the common excavation and the stripping to go back onto the slopes of the ditch and seeding. So
So
it's
that-
basically complete.
that doesn't get us to a saleable
No,
lot.
no. So I've broken out the costs for you so that, and then lumped everything into the overall, so you got a total
Oh, yeah.
view of the total cost. So it's something that should be considered to do first because of, well, two valid reasons. One, it helps with the drainage in this area. It alleviates any flooding and the fact that 30 acres or maybe more up there. It's all I could find from the air photos. What's that? 60. That's quite a few acres, of course. So doing that first, it cleans up within the subdivision because I did do some test pits and down around in this area, it was wet.
It's always wet.
Yeah. But the material, once the drainage is fixed and relocated, I can guarantee you that this will kind of come back and be a lot nicer material and slowly dry out because once you find a conduit for water, everything migrates to that, of course.
Yeah, it'll be fine if it's dry.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with the dirt here and here. A mix, even the way it is right now, would work really nice.
Yeah,
We don't have to add water. So with that helping, and it was my approach with Nutrien is, and why they agreed to the right of way is it's a benefit to their land and the subdivision as well, for sure. So if we go to phase one, the first thing you'll notice that is the cost per lot has went up about $6,000 per lot. And part of the reason for that, there's only 5 lots that I've designated as phase one, but it also includes Second Avenue because there is some widening to do on Second Ave because at some point it becomes basically a little trail. So we need to bring it up to the standard width. So it requires some fill and then gravel and whatnot. So that doesn't help with the price per lot. Well, I pitch at about 154. And that's just phase one. That doesn't include stage one for the ditch. These are all separated costs.
Yeah, that on that Second Ave repair, it looks like you have the repair running from Third Street all the way to the new ditch. Could we not just build? We wouldn't have to build beside lot 10, would we? Wouldn't we be able to just go to Third Street?
That's your option, but I wouldn't recommend it because you still have a fair bit of traffic going to where you're storing material. And it's also your access to the lagoon as well. In my mind, it doesn't make sense for the amount, like we're talking a little bit of fill, like less than 1,000 cubes of compacted fill and then gravel.
For that.
But I think we need to get it to the standard because it is adjacent to a lot that you're selling and
I guess that gives them the option with the corner lot. Have multiple approaches on a corner. We can sell that.
yeah, I'm definitely showing the approach at what I consider the front of the lot off the Third. But that's an advantage of a corner lot. It gives them the possibility of looping internal traffic with another approach.
Yeah.
And that would be their cost, of course, not yours.
you know,
You're required to put one approach in. And
yeah, but I think that law would have more value because there's more frontage.
I think it should be definitely.
Because there's two road frontages, right? So you could sell it for more.
Oh, for sure. I would definitely think the same thing. It's a good point, actually. Now, if we go to phase 2, you notice a drastic reduction in the price per lot. Now we're down to 82. And there's a couple of reasons for that is that the grades, because if you look at it naturally up there right now, it kind of goes up as you go to the north and the road needs to go up. So there's hardly, it's basically almost at grade.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of cut and not a lot of fill up there. Plus the fact that I've designated 9 lots in phase 2, which doesn't hurt the average either. Kind of put them all side by side. It's kind of a wiggly woggly line when you plot the average price per lot kind of thing. But the true price of 4,500 Qs of topsoil. Now, my thought on this is the rear of the lots, it'd be really easy. This can easily spread out 2 feet high, about 3 meters wide along the backside of these lots, and it's gone. So there's no excess really. And what I like about putting it here, it's an extra safety barrier in the event of we get something other than the big design storm that us engineers use. It's kind of a dam or a safety barrier as well. And it allows us to get rid of the topsoil. And if the people that purchase the lots want to use some of that topsoil, they're welcome to it, right?
Yeah, it's theirs. They'll be buying it.
Yeah, exactly. And the back 3 meters isn't really usable, depending on who purchases the lot, of course.
I mean, we could blade it out over all lots.
No, I'm gonna say, it's a hard no, because on the lots themselves, you can imagine that maybe 80% of the lot is gonna be a combination of building and gravel. Or if it's a storage yard, they'll have gravel. If they're using it, they'll probably put a hard surface down for sure. Now, each lot, typically, you will ask for 10% of soft landscaping. So there's an option. Some of that dirt then would be used on each lot for the landscaping as well. And that's either at the front or the back or whatever the lot layout is for that particular purchaser. Now, when it comes to the common excavation, there's about 7,000 cubes coming out of the channel, and then with 3rd Street, because there's ditches and everything, so there's about 2,500 cubes coming out of there. And then we're reusing some of that on 3rd Street. And most of this is the excavation from the drainage channel. So at the end of the day, we got about 3,800 cubes left over. And a really good place for this is in the front of the lots. Just go back as far as you can. Because I've already allowed, within the fill of 3rd Street, I've already allowed for 5 meters, 3 to 5 meters into the front of the lots. Because we have a utility right-of-way plan there for gas for one, and then you got the overhead power. They'll want it in the grades need to be within plus or minus 4 inches actually. So this 3,800
you get soaked up.
Will disappear really quick. And we'll just, as we're grading, we'll just grade into the front of the lots and try and spread it out evenly and focus on our phase 1, of course. So at the end of the day, I think we can balance the dirt. and not have a big stockpile sitting somewhere trying to figure out how the heck we're gonna get rid of it.
Yeah.
Because typically, good common excavation clay is the most valuable and easiest to get rid of. Whereas sometimes topsoil is a pain in the butt. Unless you know a local farmer that wants to revitalize some hay fields or something, but I think we can easily get rid of the, spread the topsoil and it won't be a burden for us down the road, so.
Okay.
And that's pretty well a wrap, and if you got any questions?
Now we have to.
A 20-minute presentation for 2 weeks of work is pretty silly, though.
Yeah, well, it's lots of information we didn't have before, right?
Yeah,
I have no further questions, I didn't have any because I wasn't reading, so.
yeah, well, you have the numbers now, we've got to that point, what you don't see is I have generated schedule of quantities that in the future can be sent out to contractors if you decide to go the tendering route. So that's already in place, and if and when you want to get to her.
Okay. Perfect. That it? Well, thank you very much.
No problem.
Drive safe.
Thanks, Al.
It's one up in Vancouver, by the way, if anyone's interested.
Power
Power play. At least it wasn't Patterson. Talk to you later. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Public Works Office report.
2 seconds. All right, so for James. As I showed you in the picture, he has his new tractor in the shop. They did have to come out and do some of the lines were in the wrong place, so they had to reroute them for the hoses. Says every guy does it differently, and it just was in the wrong place, so it would have been hitting the tires, and we would have been in trouble. But anyway, it's all fixed. Everything's working. Everything's hooked up.
It's a lot bigger than the other one we had.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Good.
it'll handle our equipment now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the stop sign at the corner of First and Frederick has been repaired. Continues to do the snow removal on the sidewalks, and the roads, and at the fire hall. He did do a lot, like previous, before the tractor came in, the research on the Kubota. He's done a couple of Connect Mobility installs, which have been going very well. And then just general repairs to the large large broom, blade replacement on the small mower, and oil, lube, and filter on the old tractor before it went out. And he's been steaming culverts, so getting everything flowing. So that's Public Works. And the office has been terribly busy with lot sales and questions. It's been crazy. So as of right now, everything is sold but the small lot. But I have a couple interested parties, and hopefully they'll get back soon. So the in-house audit was completed over 3 days last week. Met with the county team for county funding for the village. I worked with Shelley on the final formatting for the policy manual, which should be coming out shortly. And assessments have been sent to us and ready to load up for the 2025 taxes. So once we get finalized on our budget, I can give you the scenarios, right? Okay. And just so you know, tomorrow the office is closed. We have a huge major software update and training with Munisoft, which starts at 8:45 and till 3 or 4 tomorrow.
Oh, you're going to a meeting tomorrow anyways for a while, aren't you?
No, Larry's going to.
Larry's going by himself?
Yeah, I cannot attend. Yeah.
Okay.
They scheduled it, and when I called to change it, it would have cost us money, and I said, well,
No,
forget it
it's
then.
fine. Yeah.
So Larry is going on his own. He's the only one, the important one anyway. He's the one that has to vote, so.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah. That's it, Jen.
We're moving the asset management report and strategic plan reports to this office, part of this office
Yes.
report, because it made more sense. It was there. So for the asset management, like Yvette said, the tractor came in. We went through the insurance, took off the recycling building and some other, corrected some variations between the audit and what our insurance had. And then, of course, the tenders that were received for the road work, that industrial park and Frederick Avenue, which I'll come in later. And then the strategic plan update in the creating opportunities goal. We just are building amenities for the community. So we're talking about expanding the number of tent sites at the campground. And just got word today that the local Girl Guides are looking to do a group camp. So we gave them a special price on that to promote these opportunities. Beautifying the village, just reminding that the trees were planted in Centennial Park. That was one of the goals, was beautifying Centennial Park. The economic development, the industrial lot's been tendered, as you heard, and that proposal's in place. We had a goal about having an early budget, and we've done well with the budget, but we had to wait on a lot of big things, like insurance came in late this year in late February, and then we are working on a county grant, which will also affect our budget. So that's why there's more work to be done there. And then the self-sufficiency goal, we're still working on a solar project. There's an update later. And then inviting others to hook up into new technologies includes our Connect Mobility. I think there were 3 new users to Connect Mobility in the last month, and a few potential ones with the new development. So that's the asset and strategic plan report.
I'll move to accept as information.
Thanks. All in favor? Carried. Minutes from
I'll move to accept.
February 12th. All in favor? Carried, thanks. Lot sales update.
Okay, so like I said, today, all the lots are sold except for the small one. In your package, I believe there was a quote. It was came in afterwards for Larry brought in a very nice little placard that we could put up at each site. And at the very bottom, it says ensure that work is confined within the boundaries of your own property.
Perfect.
So the quote was for 10 signs for $275. So
How much?
$275 for 10 signs. There were 2x2 Core Plus signs.
Well, I'll move to direct the front office to get those made up and have them ready.
Okay.
All in favor?
Are we also sticking the sold signs on the,
Yes. It's really hard to see those little stickers that are up there, but we'll put them up.
yeah,
As each lot is for sure confirmed sold, we will get them up there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I can just sort of create a lot of positive around the town.
Yes, and we will start advertising in our newsletter that, yeah.
Lots of old new residents coming.
I'll move to accept as information.
All in favor? Carried. $6.2.
Okay, well. Oh, do you have that? This one? No, this one? No, it was Chris's. It was Chris's. Sorry, I had this all in. Oh, this one. Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah. Okay, so in is this in the package?
No.
Okay, sorry, this should have been on. So the extension, okay, so we have 2 phases here. Post office to 2nd Street, approximate $1 million. That is water, sewer, paving, everything. Mhm.
So how much did that go up from the last time we had that price?
Now this is like, could be plus or minus, right? This
Yeah.
is just a rough,
This isn't a tender volume?
no. So if you accept the proposal, which, sorry,
This is just the engineering estimate.
yeah. Yeah, sorry, this just came in March. Could you copy those off for me,
Okay.
please? We can take them home. So now we discussed between, good news is there is a water line running from Second to Third Street. So, I mean, I didn't realize that, but it is there
There's a water line going,
from Second to Third.
so it's connected.
Yep.
Oh.
Water, but
No
not sewer.
sewer.
Not sure
Why?
why. I don't know. So anyway, after looking at it all and to do a road bill as per design, the subdivision drawings would cost approximately 620,000.
That's just for the road.
Sorry, the previous is right. No, this is to do everything, 620,000. So
Including payments?
storm, shallow utilities, lighting, 620,000. Just for that one block. Water's already there, but they have to put the sewer in
That's between second and third there.
between second and
Connected
third.
to.
Yeah,
And that's serviced for now.
serviced for lots. Now, he did send me the plans that they had previously done for the project. So we want to send that around. That's where this would be going in from Second, right?
Mhm.
To Third. You have a potential of putting in, I think, 11 lots.
You know,
Story of that, it just came in and
so
completely forgot it wasn't in the package.
sorry, I'm just getting my calculator.
So it's like, if you had to pay them outright, it'd be 55 grand a lot. So we'd be selling them at a loss again.
Yep.
But I mean, if we want to grow the town, we
So,
have to sell lots at
I
a
have
loss.
So
It's like financing.
in that collaboration meeting,
Mhm.
the discussion was brought up about Haviland buying 5
Mhm.
acres of land in Strathmore. And they're developing it.
Mhm.
Is there a possibility that we could look into
Yes.
finding a developer? And I would like to have you talk to the CAO in Strathmore.
Mhm.
This is just conversation. Don't write anything yet because we have to make a motion on
Yeah.
it to direct to do it. So here's my thinking. So if we could talk to Strathmore and find out how they worked it with de Havilland on their land.
Mhm.
Did they say, here's the 5 acres, you
Mhm.
develop it, you pay everything, infrastructure, the works. And then depending on what that answer is, how they worked it, then maybe talk to, Debbie Metzner was sitting, I believe, by Mike that night, wasn't she?
Yep. Right beside
Talk
me.
to her because she's a realtor and see if there's a possibility of finding a developer that would come out and do it. Because then we go straight to collecting taxes without putting out anything on our ratepayers, right? It's just a thought, right? If we could find a developer
Yeah,
to come in and do it.
Why don't we talk, I think the first step is you talk to the CAO.
Yeah.
In Strathmore. See how that deal came about,
Mhm.
and then. Yeah, I mean, then I guess if that leads you to talk to the real estate agent, that would make sense. It may or may not, it might lead you somewhere else, but I think that initial conversation, how'd that deal get done?
Well, that just jumped right out at me that night.
Mhm.
And I know that I have talked to other areas that have done that and had a developer come in. And the way I'm understanding, like, so tonight we're sitting here talking about the industrial park. And somebody mentioned that, did you say Acme? They come in and bought the whole place.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an option with our industrial park
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I think we phone Acme too and find out how did they get that deal?
Yeah. So,
Well, they put the cart before the horse.
yeah, I know they had a little bit of a
So-
wreck over there. I did hear
Yeah.
that story. So,
They gave them the development permit before the subdivision and anything had happened.
Oh,
So, yeah.
ooh.
yeah.
So
We don't
that's-
have to do it exactly the way we did it.
So,
We're not suggesting that.
no, we want to do it right.
Yeah,
But,
that's how they got the deal, right? They needed a spot now. They needed it right away. So that's how they got the deal.
because I think if we could do, and what would be wrong with seeing if somebody would buy the industrial park? He could maybe come in and work with Al and
Build it.
build it. Okay, I will make a motion to direct staff to talk to Town of Strathmore on their lot sales to developer for their,
The Haviland project?
well, I don't want to use names
Uh,
because I don't know, right?
Yeah,
Um,
just to.
Just find
research.
out, research, do
Yeah.
research on between Strathmore and industrial park sales in Acme. And then,
Okay, so are we talking, because we have a project industrial coming up next. Do you want to be just on the residential?
sure,
Okay. So just for residential, I'm assuming?
but then I also want to go one step further to say that I'll just bring that back to council next meeting,
Yeah,
and then we'll go to talk to finding a developer.
Well,
we can,
I mean,
right?
if you came back to council and said, yeah, this is what they did, I phoned a couple of developers and we have a couple of interested developers, I
Well,
would be fine with that.
You know what, okay, I'll add that to my motion then.
Can I
Yeah.
read what I wrote? and
Sure.
select it? Move to direct staff to research Town of Strathmore and Acme regarding their lot sales and developer relationships and report to council.
And then but I also want to add to go one step further and see if we can find somebody that would look into developers. Talk to Debbie Mitzner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talk to,
You want that in the same motion or a second motion?
No, I think just add it to that one.
Okay. So Town of Strathmore, Acme, and
Debbie Mitzner.
Debbie
No,
Mitzner,
no,
or
no.
others.
You can pick a real estate, I just used their name.
yeah,
Debbie Messner was, sorry.
yeah. But we don't want to.
But in the
just-
motion, we're not gonna say
to-
Debbie Mitzner.
No, talk to a
So
real
other
estate agent.
professionals or other,
Real estate professional.
Yeah.
okay, real
Yeah.
estate.
With respect to
Finding a developer.
finding a developer.
Yeah.
Any other conversation on that? All in favor? Carried.
So before we proceed on that, we're gonna look at that a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, like looking at that drawing you have
Yeah.
right there. The lots look like they're back to the 50-foot frontages.
They are,
They're gonna be like, what are you gonna put on a lot like that? We might,
except for these lots down below here are longer. They're actually, okay, here,
Wow.
sorry.
Yeah.
Jen, you got,
These ones are.
The-
long.
Yeah. So
You see
the
This line here.
Yeah.
lots number 65 through 71,
yes,
they measure approximately 55 by 130 feet. And then lots 35 to 32 or 32, 35 are 46 by 96.
yeah. Well, it's just something to look at before we decide if
Oh,
we're
yeah.
if
No,
we're gonna
that's
move
not-
on that.
Yeah,
I think that those lots need to be wider.
well, this isn't gonna happen in a
Yeah.
month. We'll be having more.
That's
meetings
just my
on this.
thought,
No,
just to have
well,
to know that.
we made lots that were too small. People wanted bigger lots.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's start by making them bigger.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of living in a small town.
And that's gonna be the thing is too, is, that's gonna be all something we find out. Do we set the lot size with the developer? Right? I don't know. We've never
Another,
dealt with a developer before.
I just brought it up for you,
Yeah, no.
for your information so that you're aware.
Yeah.
just another point of information while you're thinking about it. Whether we want, when these lots are zoned, R1 or R general. because different types of housing are permitted in our general that are not in R1. And so
Okay,
that's something.
okay. So we voted on that.
Yes, it carried. And that was Martin who made the motion.
Yeah. Okay. Project industrial.
So Al presented, I thought it was gonna be about 150,000, 80,000 for the ditch and that, but came in quite a bit more.
Quite a
So,
bit more than I thought it was gonna be too.
yeah, 130 more than I thought. So, but, so just so you know, Jen and I were sitting here this afternoon, and Jen, you got your,
Which one do you want?
well, we need to see.
Here are your choices. This one. Oh, I don't think that's the one.
I think that this one's there. So some of the projects that we have, that the Frederick Avenue extension and the industrial park, way it sits right now, we would be looking at let me see here. When do we, if we were to dip into future funds, we're looking at 2029? Is that right?
Sorry. Dip into future funds? What do you mean?
Well, with our MSI, not our MSI.
When we break
LGFF and
even,
CCBF.
yeah, it'd be after 2029. We would
Yeah.
break into positives again.
Yeah. So
That's
this,
not bad. That's to do all of them?
Yeah.
That's to do both projects.
so here, we'll
So
pass
that's,
this
so
around. so
we're
you can
talking,
have a
if we
look at
did
it.
both, so we're saying 25, that's a 4-year payout? 4 or 5 years, that's not bad. For that,
Yeah,
we might, because we could,
And that-
if you did that,
and that's just estimating some of the
yeah, but so
projects,
well,
the numbers.
we could. That gives us 11, potentially 11 if we make them bigger, 8 lots.
Anyways, stuff you can take home.
Yeah, that's not bad.
This we
4
just came up
years,
with
4
today.
years of capital.
Well, you should,
But if we can put that somewhere else and find a developer.
Yeah. So along here,
If we can find.
If we could find a developer, Marty, I agree. I mean, if we can't find a developer, I think we got to think about one of them. We got to add more lots. Currently, we don't have any industrial, and we only have that one little tiny residential. So, in my view, we have to have one of those projects go this year.
Yeah.
And if we dipped in and it was like, and we only did the Frederick, that would sound like, just say it's 2 years upfront capital. That's not bad.
No,
2020.
And then that would get us, we might end up even selling those this fall.
So here's your capital funding that we
Okay.
know of coming in.
so this one here is the 10-year view of all the infrastructure projects that would require roads to etc. And just so you're aware, the costs that are in here are from the 2018 capital management plan. So obviously those costs might be a little bit.
Did you inflate them at all or not yet?
No, I didn't
Oh,
inflate them.
okay.
Well, I actually 2030, 2032, I did. Just by a little bit, because they also had 70,000 to this, but I inflated that by 31,000.
Okay.
I did not inflate the 2020.
Okay.
That one has this.
so just looking at the 3 years, so you have written on here the county, so that would be what the old CRISP funding was.
The infrastructure graph going
It's
forward
now called the infrastructure grant.
Yeah.
So is that,
will be discussed later.
okay,
That's our best guesstimate.
Okay.
This looks good, you guys.
Yeah.
That's
So
nice. Thank you.
we do have, yeah, we should have left this one off here. So.
It's okay. The box number at the bottom is without.
Yeah,
the solar.
okay. So not including the solar at the top. This is what we're looking for is the 2.7. Oh no, without, 2.7 million total, or 2.8.
That would do the Frederick and the industrial.
Yeah, would do all these, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Did you find it? Where was it hiding?
It's up in 2029.
That's not bad, 2.7 over four years, like That's not terrible. That's not a terrible
We
decision.
should say 4.5, because 2029 does have still a little bit of
Yeah.
50,000, which is like a drop in the bucket
Yeah.
compared, but
Okay, say 5 years.
yeah.
And at the same time, we are still applying for grants. We have applied for one that's specifically for new construction, which we're hoping
We're
for
hoping to hear back.
the industrial park.
I think that's
right.
We should know back in June, I think.
Yeah, so there's
The
still
only thing
potential.
Yeah, and I'm all good with looking
Yeah.
into all these things, but
Yeah.
I'm worried that I will not, I'll be a little bit scared to sell lots. If we build these lots and it costs us 55 grand, I don't think we should start low. I think that's where we need to start, right, at 55 per lot sales.
As long as they're big enough.
You know what I'm saying?
Justify the
I
price,
just
yeah.
don't wanna start lowballing right away. Cause you never know, 55,000, who knows who's gonna come in, right? But that's down the road.
Right, no, but let's talk it through, because I don't think that's ridiculous. So let's say we pull this off and we build that this year, right? And we put them up for sale in the late fall for 55,000.
Mhm.
Let's say they don't sell by February, you do a spring sale and sell them for the construction
We can
season.
do tax incentives also.
You can do tax
Right,
incentives
instead of
also.
lowering the lot prices.
Yeah.
I'd rather try to
Do 2
go,
years of no taxes.
I'd rather try to do that for a
Yeah.
while first before we
Yeah.
lower them lot prices. Anyways, that's
Yeah,
just,
and then if they didn't sell, so then if you did a March tax incentive and you don't sell, and then sell them in July. When you're at the end of the construction season, but if people are in a big hurry, you could sell a few lots in June, and then people would still have July, August, September, October, and you can get your shell up. I don't know, I think there's a way forward here where we.
Absolutely, there's
Yeah.
options. I mean, we've generated big time interest by selling these.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, now
I
you
have
got-
no idea why they just all of a sudden.
Yeah.
sold.
Well,
But
every
they're
one.
gone, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's just gonna spur on more interest.
Well, every one of them that bought is going to tell at least 7 to 10 people that they bought a lot in Standard and how wonderful it is.
Yes,
Right? It's going to advertise itself. So I
absolutely.
think we've got to get the bus rolling for when those people come to inquire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll move to accept as information.
all in favor. Carried. Letter to Lions and response.
So, yeah, you asked us to send a letter to the Lions regarding the campground plans. So their response in return was that they're waiting to see if they're going to get any grant funding. And then we would get together and
Okay.
get organized.
Okay.
So,
When and just on that, just so you guys know, when in the fall they got me to move the dirt for the trees,
Mhm.
and I left a pile so that this spring when they get watering, those berms will move, right, and
Yeah.
settle. And so there's still a pile of dirt there, but that's for the existing
Okay.
berms. So people
Okay.
inquire about that dirt.
Okay.
That's the
That's what I
Lions
said.
dirt for the tree berms.
Okay.
For the first repair after water.
dirt is for.
For the settling.
Somebody want to move to accept?
I'll
that?
make a motion to accept.
Richard, all in favor. Carried. 6.5 library lease.
So really just accept as information, and we'll wait for them to come back, I guess. I mean, there's no point in us drafting up anything. I prefer that they tell us exactly what they would like to see in that agreement. So,
Yeah, no,
and
I'm
it's
fine.
up to you guys to decide how we want to.
Well, go ahead.
I'd like to, so I think, I'm gonna speak for you, Marty. What I think I've heard, and then you correct me, is that you would like to keep the library in control and maintenance of that building,
Mhm.
all costs. In which case, the lease has to say where we're gonna fund them annually, right? We have to provide capital funding.
Yeah.
If we're not gonna provide them capital funding, then we have to be responsible for the building, right? I really think there's only 2 streets here.
No, and
Does that make sense?
that's the way I was
Yeah,
going
is that what
to,
you
is
heard?
to start giving them, see, I don't know, I do not remember why that dropped. I don't remember why there was, well, I don't even know if I was here when there was 6,500.
I was the board chair at the time.
Wait, you didn't speak.
And the reason we had the extra money I was board chair until, I left before 2013. So prior to those years, we had a council member who said, just ask the council for money. So we would send him with a request for 4,000 or for whatever money. And then he would come back, oh yeah, they'll give it to you. And so that's how that handled. I don't think it was ever designated automatically in the annual budget. We asked for it every time.
Okay.
And then,
Okay.
so I can't speak to the 2013 6,300, except to say if it was the same council member that was on that board, they probably asked for it. And then maybe there was a shift or a change and no one thought to remember to ask for it again.
That might have been around when we rebuilt the steps. Sorry, Richard, you got.
No, no. It's just Connie made actually a point that really kind of stuck out. Where as she said it's a municipal building. So as kind of its an extension, we kind of run the library, the municipal building, as she was saying, and the other ones are public facilities. But but the one thing that she did say though, that also is that they paid for the building and we have retained ownership of it. So we have all the benefit of the equity that's in the building and everything else in the asset. So I think that that's also somewhere that we could look at, because I know you didn't want to set a precedence.
Well, I'm just gonna, so when the arena built their front end, who paid for that?
The arena.
They decided it.
So-
Go ahead.
So the reason that happens that way, and it comes back to the village owning the building, is because you as a volunteer are not going to be here in 100 years from now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
They're,
the building needs to stay with an entity that is consistent,
they're
right?
all public buildings.
Yeah,
The library,
Yeah.
it is.
you have to look past the service. They all service residents and kids.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a library, a curling rink, a fire hall. I just threw that in there because we used to own the fire hall.
Yeah.
They're all the same thing. They all service people. Go ahead.
I agree with the caveat that the reason that a municipality wants a library is because you're serving children that can't afford $10,000 a year or $5,000 a year to play hockey, right? So we have a vested interest in our community to support our own community with a library that's affordable for people that otherwise couldn't afford those other public buildings, right? So I like the idea. I like your idea that they're the library board. It's their building. They're responsible.
Yeah.
But I think we provide them the capital, and I think that maybe even Jen help them build out a asset
I
management
thought that was an
plan.
excellent idea.
Yeah.
That because if we build out an asset management plan and Jen helps them, then we understand, okay, we have confidence in this, then we can help them create a budget and fund it so that.
Well, I'm not against that in
Okay.
any way.
Mhm.
I want to get something done and I want this lease agreement signed. But I think being you're doing budget right now, if we're going back to 4,500, I think we need to make that motion tonight so you can put it back in your budget.
Okay, I'll make a
You know what
motion.
I'm saying? Just let's ask them first, right?
Okay.
'Cause I know you're
Deer in the headlights.
Well, yeah, I think we just need, because the budget isn't finalized yet, so we just need to say, put that amount in the
Okay,
budget for review, but either that or we set aside reserves for them and we can put it into a high interest savings account where it'll earn some money, right?
okay. That,
I mean,
that's up to
Okay,
you.
so
guys to work out,
if
right?
we do that, if you do that,
yeah,
that's a good idea too. But then the lease has to say that we're going to fund the capital because it will be
Yeah.
in our name.
Mhm.
I think if we're on the same page, all of us here,
Well, I think we are.
and I think the library board, we recognize that they don't have capital. We're going to be the capital, so we just have to get the lease agreement aligned with the capital. Either we're flowing the capital to them, or we're taking responsibility.
so we need to define what we're going to replace as on the building, so it would be like roof, windows, sidewalk.
Which we did when I was chair.
Sidewalk, ramp, facade.
And the village has, if you look on the list, we have contributed quite a bit of funds towards their building. They did get 20,000 towards the roof when they did it.
Yeah.
We gave them 10,000 towards the sidewalk when they redid that.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's not like we
We
weren't
don't-
contributing, right?
Yeah,
So,
we don't just not do anything.
yeah, exactly.
Would,
But we need to define what we're gonna pay for. For example, are you gonna pay for, central vac? Are you gonna pay for the furnace?
So could I ask a
Those.
question?
Are you going to, like these little things, are these,
Well, but those,
operating or
but those
these
are,
are
those are
capital?
R and M. We're doing capital.
Right, so this needs to be defined
Mhm.
because
So what do other, like, what does Cesar do? What does Strathmore do? What does Rocky Ford do?
I
Like-
think
like-
they do pay a lot into the library.
What I'm at, like, so does the libraries, I'm assuming none of the libraries own their own buildings. The way I'm understanding this tonight, they can't.
But there might be a, like a separate entity, like a Friends of the Library.
Well, we have that here too.
Yeah.
But I would like just ask around and see what everybody else does. Some information.
May I inquire too? I think one of the questions that I'm wondering is that because the point they kept making was, well, we're an extension of the municipality and managers of the library running the programs so that the village does not. So the thing is that the old lease that has been signed and re-signed over the years, there was obviously a council that discussed it and it was good enough at the time.
Mhm.
It's not good enough in their perspective from this point moving
Because of the
forward.
water break.
Because of the water break. So my question is, how, I don't want to, this is where I would express caution, changing the wording and they wanted to change their identity on the lease. And are we doing a lease or an agreement? Are we changing names that take away some of their autonomy under the Library Act? Are they asking for something that to them makes sense because it exonerates them from paying for the leak? But are we complicating another side of a library operating as extension of the municipality? So I feel like there's a little bit more research to do, just to make sure that whatever the agreement is, whether we fund capital every year or whatnot, that the agreement is such that we don't risk their operating as an entity to begin with, that we don't
Makes
have too
sense.
much oversight or too much
Yeah,
autonomy.
well,
It'll have to be reviewed.
it's the reason why we have the Friends.
There's a history
Set up, right?
involved and we don't know what it is that brought the first agreement around. Right, so I just want to read into the Library Act a little bit, and they were talking about the Municipal Act. But again, that goes from the concept that they are a renter and we are the owner. But is that concept the right interpretation of their board? So, because sometimes you talk yourself into a conviction that you don't see the intention of what the original definitions were, right?
Well, I think this is what we're finding, I think you and I were dealing with it before. Was at the fire hall, is that what we found was a lot of the old agreements and everything else were all done by a handshake, a duck and a nod. And just we'll sign this and it's done, don't worry, we'll take care of it.
Including
We
that
have to.
4,000 we used to get when I was chair,
Exactly.
right?
So this is where we're now getting people that are more, they're a little bit more attentive. They're a little bit more to like, well, wait a minute, this is worded, this is worded. And they're looking at it more of a finite comb with the legality aspect of it. And that's where they're highlighting a lot of these issues. So yeah, I can understand where they're coming from. I can understand where we're coming from. We're going to have to just sit down and they can present it as they want. We'll have to review it, and see, because I can see, as you're saying, they're saying, well, we can remove this, but that could screw it up down the road.
Well, and I would like to ask a question of the council, because if they come in to discuss before the next council meeting, right, you're giving us leverage to talk it out with them. Is council comfortable with not charging rent like usual, but is council comfortable with something like what the fire has, some kind of split agreement or some kind of promise for so many years of the lease or the agreement to have this much put away for capital? Or is there, are we talking about getting into that realm, or is that complicating it too much?
My understanding is they cannot afford anything.
Well, that's the reality.
yeah.
They've got no way of
So-
funding stuff. And what I'm hearing tonight is they have no problem with maintaining
Mhm.
the building, the stuff that they wear out, like the flooring and that sort of stuff. But, as far as I'm concerned, the water leak should be on us. They paid for a new roof. It's not their building. I don't understand that.
We did that when I was chair too. The roof it was at its end of life, and we had an option or an opportunity to replace the shingles with something that was like a 50+ year, whatever's on there now, that's what we did. And there was 90,000 in a GIC. So that's what we did.
Yeah, depends.
So they're willing to work with us. They just want to be cut a break, right?
Well, I
So-
just wish they would have actually read their agreement before they signed it over the past how many years, right? Like, I don't agree that when you don't sign an agreement, you go as a tenant renter or tenant
No,
landlord act.
That wasn't in the agreement.
That's
Yeah.
that's not true.
It's not the spirit of the agreement either.
No. So
But I did think their comment, if that 4,500 had been paid over the
They
last
would've
10
had it.
years, they would have had the money,
mhm.
right? So
Yes.
we have our part to own in this.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll move to accept as information.
Okay.
And yes,
All in favor. Carried.
Well, we'll bring back some
Yeah,
different
This is not gonna happen.
examples of
Yeah.
other libraries.
Mhm.
We'll find half a dozen of them and we'll
Well, I think it's a good idea, because how
call and see
do
what they
we know
do.
if we're doing things right?
Yeah.
okay, so then I'll also move to
Okay.
instruct staff.
Whatever we do on this, in my opinion, this is the way I like to take care of business. When I do business, is make it a win-win. Yeah, make it. They're happy and we're happy.
Absolutely.
There should be no losers in this information.
So I'll make a motion to instruct staff to research other municipal library lease agreement arrangements.
All in favor? Carried. Standard Rural Fire Association lease agreement.
Okay, so another lease agreement.
So is this still to do with the water loadout?
Yes, so they basically would like to enter into an agreement. Okay, so they would like for legal to draft up the agreement.
Okay,
So
so we had numbers. So I did do the word contamination. I asked, remember last month we talked about contamination, what kind of, that is the wrong word that's in that, whatever the
yeah,
county sent. It's liability for somebody slipping and falling on the ice from our water loadout.
yeah,
That's what it is. It's not contamination. So I said, well, that's the wrong word. So I said, if we have to put liability insurance on it, we will shut the water loadout off. Like, that's my feeling. Because doesn't make sense for the amount of money that it costs us.
Can't we charge more for water to pay for the insurance?
How much was the difference? Do you remember? It was a lot.
It wasn't very
the
much.
insurance.
The insurance liability insurance, remember?
Oh,
Yeah,
it was for
5,000.
2 million coverage, it was 5,000. The
Yeah.
county requires 5 million coverage.
See, it's,
Well, we're not the county though.
yeah, but it's on
Well,
their
for
land.
for the county to be satisfied that whatever their agreement required is met, there has to be $5 million of coverage for it.
5 million, so instead of 5, we just have to divide it out per
We're
cube.
looking at,
What we'd have to charge per cube of water.
so what did we make last year on the water there?
It's like 14,000, I think.
Yeah, so we just have to increase the price.
How much?
I want to say 14,000. That's an
Yeah,
under.
I don't have
guess.
those numbers in front
We,
of me.
I don't, I think that there would be a loud complaint. There's a lot of places that use that water, like for drinking water.
Yes.
They're hauling it to their homes.
Yeah, I know, but it's not like they can't get it from WRC down south, right? We're not strapping them without it. Without water, there's still places to get water.
I know, but anytime you change someone's behavior, I think we just charge them for it.
Well,
Money.
the sad thing is this water loadout of ours it's not on our building
Mhm.
and it's not on our land.
Mhm.
It never should have been put there in the first place.
Again, it was one of those,
Yeah.
let's do this.
That's why, and yeah, it never should have been put there. We don't own the land. Go ahead.
Don't we have a loadout here?
Yeah.
Why aren't we using that?
Big trucks can't come in.
Because
Big
it's-
trucks.
There's not room for semis anymore, and that's pretty much all it loads down there. Anyway, go on. I'll get off my, yeah.
No, it's a
No,
good
so I mean, if we would just want to enter into an agreement with them, but to have legal drafted.
Yep,
So-
I'm fine with that. I'll make
So-
that motion.
Yeah.
All in favor? Carried. Financial reports. Somebody can move to adopt the February financials.
And your, again, your financial statement is on the table today, sorry. It's almost the last thing that I do.
This one here. I can make the motion to adopt this information. Once satisfied.
All in favor? Carried. Correspondence.
Nothing too much in there.
Somebody want to move to adopt
I'll move.
or accept as information? Thanks. All in favor? Carried. Drumheller District Solid Waste Transport Repairs. So we pay them what, $20,000 a year for GFL to pick up our garbage? Did you have any disruptions this week here?
Yeah, we had to keep a
Okay.
load on the truck for,
Okay.
I don't know how long.
So I asked to have this put on because they keep giving contract to GFL. This is like, you're the board rep, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So GFL, for over 3 years here, on a Tuesday of a long weekend, their trucks broke down. It's inevitable. It has been, what are we in March? 3 times this year now, after Monday, there has been disruptions in garbage pickup. Monday they wouldn't run because the roads are icy. Well, the roads were clear by 11 o'clock, but yet they never showed up till Tuesday at 11 in Rocky Ford, which puts them behind coming here. They're supposed to be here on Wednesday to pick up. Like, I am not, when we pay 20,000 a year, I expect it to be good service. It's, they gotta find either, I don't know. Maybe you can talk to me about it. I don't understand.
We've talked about GFL, is it? Yeah, we've talked about them before. We've had lots of issues with them.
Okay.
I think we should just find somebody else. Do you want me to take that over there to that?
Well, should we make them
Write a letter.
write a letter?
Yeah.
From Standard to Village of
Yeah.
Standard?
Yeah.
I know, I'm just gonna tell you what happened over in Hazard for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
There was no pickups in Hazard. They had closed the dump. People were just throwing their garbage out all over the place down the road because GFL would not come and get their garbage. So I would like to direct staff to write a letter saying that we are very displeased with our,
Could we say concerned?
Over the amount of breakdowns.
sure.
Something like that.
Like, it's just when we, you know, their contract says, and I actually asked my boss, I said, what is there over there? Because we were stuck. We had nowhere, because we do garbage on Tuesday mornings. So if they're not there Monday, it's full from the weekend. We have nowhere to go.
And you had other times that
It's been 3 times
they had
this year.
they'd broken down or something.
3 times this year
Yeah.
alone.
Bill talked about that.
Yeah. So I asked, what is their contract? Well, their contract states basically that if something happens, they just have to, I can't remember the exact wording, but correct it. So if they don't pick it up on Friday or Monday or whenever, well, as long as they pick it up the following Friday, they've just corrected the problem. But yet we're still paying whatever, how many pickups do they do here a year?
Oh, I'm not sure how many pickups, but
So
Yeah.
say it's whatever, say it's $1,000 a pickup or whatever between us and the county's 80%, right? If they miss that pickup, why are we paying them that money? Go ahead, Jen.
Who's the letter being addressed to? The Drumheller District Waste?
Another district solid waste. And I guess, yeah, concerns about service. And
Well, have we actually had
Have they missed? the-
services
Yes, this
that they
week.
didn't give?
Yeah,
This week.
so like today, today we had to hold on to a load until the transfer got emptied. So,
that should never happen.
yeah,
You mean from the
So-
garbage from the village?
Has
So
this-
it was full.
Two of them. We have two transfers here.
one,
Yeah.
well, actually, one was needing repair and the other one was full. Like we got a load in and then we had to wait for it to get emptied. That's what I'm understanding.
Okay.
But so village, okay. Azar has one transfer,
Mhm.
Rockyford has one transfer, Standard has two. And we pay for that through a loan agreement with Drumheller District. But maybe we should be encouraging them to get more transfers to Azar and Rockyford, because I'm concerned if you're full, it's coming over here.
Uh,
Well,
no,
No?
I'm not.
no, not your garbage, but I mean,
But
people would just come and
Somebody
drop it
else,
off.
yeah, and then it's gonna end up full here.
Yeah.
It's a snowball effect,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because they have a route that they do.
Yeah.
So they're supposed to be, say, in Carbon or whatever on Saturday and Rocky Ford on Monday, however they do their routes.
Mhm.
Well, if they don't do it this day, everybody gets bumped today.
Yeah.
So I just think we need to tell them that we're not happy with the service.
The motion right now reads direct staff to write a letter to Drumheller District Waste, etc. The village is concerned and disappointed with unreliable garbage pickup.
By GFL.
Get it on
Want
the
to
books
break
and then
down
it can be
Yeah.
dealt with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that poor Sonia,
we-
I mean, you know her, right? Well, she's getting all these phone call
Yeah.
complaints. Well, it's not her fault.
Yeah.
So anyway, all in favor? Carried. 9.2 Swana request.
Yeah, so this is a request, concerns over the fires that are starting down in the landfills because of batteries and stuff that are being thrown out. Larry, do you want to comment some more on this?
Yeah, they've been having issues at the landfill in Drumheller, fires, and they've had issues where some of the staff were affected by the smoke and things like that, and they're worried about their staff safety. So it all comes, basically, it comes from batteries and other, I can't remember quite some of the other things that were causing it. But it's basically coming from the small batteries, the lithium batteries, that it's causing fires
Oh, I know.
in the landfill. So we haven't really talked in length about it, but there's gonna have to be something brought forward from Drumheller District to the villages, that maybe we can put up some receptacles or something here for
Lithium ion.
that.
Well, yeah, at the dump, right at the dump.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, the problem is you need to even go a step further because people with household garbage are not, they're just gonna chuck them in the garbage.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So they're not gonna go to the transfer site because they don't take their garbage
See,
there anyway.
I
So
have,
my thought was to either have a receptacle here that they can come and drop off batteries, go for a walk and drop off those batteries, or at the store, you're going in the store.
I
Walmart.
think if we're gonna do
Good
it,
idea.
if we're gonna, I don't agree with the store.
Okay.
Because of the fact that we don't own the store. So if something happens in that
Yeah.
and that starts a fire, guess what?
Yeah.
So I would agree with doing something here.
Where it won't start this building on fire.
Well, we own this building.
But we don't want it on fire.
No, we don't want it on fire, but
So the receptacle can't be like,
no, it can't be right up against the wall.
So.
And it
would
should be metal. The metal,
Yeah.
the metal,
bin.
bin.
Yeah.
well, we can wait until the
Yeah,
Yeah,
Drumheller
But
District
anyway, something like that.
yeah.
Right, so that,
gives it the input, so.
Yeah, and then just a notice into the
Yeah.
letter and.
Whether or
I mean,
not.
that's what I
it'll
do with
help.
James. I get the batteries, I give them to him and tags them and he gets rid of them at the dump.
I've seen what happens when you throw used
Yeah.
batteries in a drawer in a garage.
Yeah, you can, yeah. Anyway, just for
Okay.
information.
Yeah.
Somebody want to move to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept.
All in favor? Carried. Jupa extension.
Yeah, so just for your information, it's been extended again, so we are now to June 10th of 2026. So this is the joint use planning agreements with the between the municipalities and the school boards.
Okay,
I'll move to accept as information.
all in favor? Carried. Transfer from 90-day demand.
Yeah, so we need to make a 90-day demand for the tractor, so the funds coming out of the account, it doesn't mean I will necessarily pull it out. But if in 90 days we need the funds there, they're there for us to use.
Oh, it's a notice.
So yeah, it's a notice. So the notice is for 136,729.43, which is the amount of that we're using for the
Okay.
tractor.
I'll make a motion for staff to make a 90-day demand transfer if needed. Notice now if it's needed.
Yeah, no, we'll just make it, it will be coming, we'll notify them to withdraw in 90 days, and then from there, we make the decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor? Carried. Minister letter.
This is just more information about the Provincial Priorities Act, so we are having to provide any new agreements with the federal government. So, but we don't really have any, but this is just for information again. If we do get into an agreement, we have to provide the information.
Okay.
I'll move to
Municipal affairs.
accept as information.
All in favor? Carried. FCM letter of, council support of solar project.
Yeah, there's a motion there, that,
First of all, we should do this.
okay,
Okay.
yeah, there's a variety of grant, probably the SCM one, potential county one, and then FCM one. They all require evidence of a motion of support before any money is gonna come to us. So there's a motion that I worked out, and it's the FCM said the more specific, the better. So move that the village pursue the installation of photovoltaic system to serve all municipally owned buildings, community group buildings, and optionally the Broadway group building, paid through by grants or municipal and group contributions, or a combination both, with a solar energy equipment supplier and installer to be specified on a separate motion.
I'll make that motion.
We are very disappointed in the process of these grants. It is extremely difficult, and it's leaving us with very
I can talk more to the FCM grant.
Yeah.
That's 9.7, but I can kind of put it together if you want to.
Yeah, just do it now.
Yeah.
We'll be done with.
Okay, well, so FCM, there's a 6-phase approval process, and after phase 6, you get the yay or the nay. So we're in phase 4. We got a phone call a couple of weeks ago about what was missing in the application and needed to be improved. And the disappointing thing is that they require a lot of technical and data sheets that verify thin scenarios that bring the greenhouse gas emissions down by 50% in 10 years and 85% years after that. And so I said, how do we accomplish writing those things without the feasibility study first? And their answer was, well, you have to come up with proof that the feasibility study is going to make a difference. So it's very difficult. The other thing is that their whole so timeline comes into effect here. They're doing an internal system upgrade. So any application that is not submitted prior to the 21st of March will be on hold until the start of May. So we're trying to get this information in by Friday, March 14th. So they've reopened the application so I can put in the missing documents and such. And it's there's a lot of time pressure in it, but it doesn't look like we're going to make the March 14th because I've been using 2 guidebooks to help finish this application. There was a 3rd guidebook that I wasn't aware that brought you through it, and her phone call a couple weeks ago said, oh, you should be using this guidebook. So now I'm looking through this third guidebook, and there is a letter of agreement, or rather a consultation with the province, because it's a federal government grant. They are required to say that we are working with the provincial government is aware of us applying for this grant, and there isn't going to be overlap between provincial grants and federal grants. And so the letter, I just received a template for it today, and it says in the letter that there's 90 days to get. I'll have to send the whole application to the municipal affairs. Then we'll review the application and have 90 days before I hear back. So they won't be making the March 14th deadline. So I'm a little disappointed in that. Then the last thing, so on the timeline, the soonest we'll hear back is the summer, and the soonest we can maybe get the approval with all their timelines is the summer. And then if our application is approved in the summer and we get all the feasibility work underway, the soonest we'll get it done is December or January. So now the whole project for solar has been pushed back, not just a year because of the feasibility, but then the next goal was to apply for the FCM capital grant to build the feasibility, and that will be another 6 months of applications. So then with that focus on the solar, we also, it's just a computer goes to sleep, the stream doesn't stop. Then with the focus on the solar in that way, I lost my train of thought for a second. Oh, yes. So the Broadway Group building does not qualify to be included in the feasibility study. And so it won't qualify to be part of our capital project if they want to join in on the solar, which they do. So they're not going to be paid for by the grant. And then the last thing is that the solar, I have reached out to a second solar installer provider, Dandelion Renewables. I just signed a third person agreement. I had to gather all the information for him, which Teralta did on their own. And then after I sent it to him, he wrote back and said he needs a third party release for Fortis. So I just signed that today. So hopefully he's coming back. They're very different, Teralta and Dandelion. Dandelion prefers to use German technology, and so they get their panels out of Germany and their all their mounting out of Germany. And he said that he's going to put a proposal together for a ground mount system because he thinks that would serve better. And then Teralta could do ground or roof. We asked for roof, though that's in the proposal because then we don't have to worry about building infrastructure around it. Teralta, their mounts come from Canadian suppliers, and then their panels are a Chinese panel, but because of the tariffs and everything, that they have a certain number of panels already landed in Canada. And Teralta told me last week that they have enough panels for our project here landed if we get the request in for them. So if not, then they may be subject to a higher, it changes our estimate, which right now from them is 181,000 and change. So the long story short is that as far as the photovoltaic system to offset the electrical bills of everyone who wants to be involved, where's that paper?
Yeah, I handed it out. So we put together, so before we even knew that this grant was going a little sideways, we were coming up with scenarios on how can we make this happen and how can we include the store in this. So we started brainstorming and we said, well, what if we did this, or what if we did this? So we came up with 3 different scenarios. If everybody came on board and we assumed all their utilities or the power, and they just paid what they would have paid, this system will pay for itself in a year. So, but now the way we're sitting, we're going to wait a year. So they're already going to be paying all this money into the utilities.
Well, it
we
won't be
could have,
2 years.
we
by
could
the
have
time it's
been
functional.
already saving them some money.
And other just disappointment adding to the FCM, and they are lovely people to work with, but I found out through Terra Alta that FCM approved Medicine Hat College this year for their solar project through their net zero grant. And I was like, what near zero grant? So I started looking into other FCM grants. And I had been talking with FCM about the solar system and all the buildings involved, et cetera, for 6 months. And they never mentioned the net zero grant. So I was a little bit frustrated at that too, that we missed that type of a grant for.
So
So,
the plan is to make this motion, to keep moving ahead.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because with this motion, see, the thing is the county grant is a possibility,
Mhm.
which we'll discuss later. And the net zero grants possibility and the feasibility study is still something we can pursue. There can be information from it
Okay.
if we choose to pursue it, but they all require this type of a motion in order to move ahead. So
Okay.
Richard made the motion.
Richard did, okay, all in favor? Carried. So 9-7 has been covered.
well,
Collaboration.
9-7 has, I'm sorry, there's two motions in there because I need
Oh,
letters.
yes, I see it now on the backside.
Yeah, and I think that it got printed before the second motion
Okay.
is. So the first motion is what you see there, move that the village contribute their portion. As
If
it
we get
reads,
grant.
Okay, somebody want to make that?
So how much are we talking here?
it's 26,000 total, 11,000 will come out of our operating budget, 15,000 comes from that ATCO feasibility grant that we were awarded, which if we don't continue with this FCM or aren't awarded it, it will still be applied to the solar project because that 15,000 is going to have MPM inspect the building for the roof and everything. That's the feasibility of it, of that
Okay.
roof. So
So having said that, it sounds to me like that we're just proceeding with this.
Well-
We're gonna go for it.
No,
well, the so the first motion is to go for the solar. The feasibility study it will come up with other good things, but the ability for me to finish the application isn't going to happen till May now. So if we do go with it, then I have this motion to put into the application before we resubmit
But
it.
if we go, what I'm asking is if we go ahead with this,
Mhm,
with what we're talking here,
yeah,
then we are committed to actually
no.
following up and doing the project.
if they award us the money and we accept the award, then we're committed to following through. But we won't know if we're awarded the money until July or August at this point, the
Okay,
soonest.
so we're not bound.
We're not
No,
bound to
no.
it.
Okay.
So,
But this motion has to exist as evidence that the municipality is aware of it and supports it.
yes, there you go. That's what I was gonna say. Every one of these grants, we have to do this in advance. And the village has to
Yeah.
commit to their portion and
Yeah.
this one is 20%, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody want to make that next motion?
I'll make that motion as well.
All in favor?
The motion as written here,
As 9-7.
Yes. Then there's a second motion, which was, I figured out after Yvette printed, which is about that letter to municipal
So we're
affairs.
spending 26,000.
No.
Well,
No.
11,000, 15,000 comes from the ATCO grant.
Okay.
The second motion is to direct administration to send a letter to municipal affairs regarding the FCM Green Municipal Fund confirming consultation with the provincial government.
I will make that motion. All in favor? Carried. Collaboration meeting.
Oh, okay, so I just wanted to talk a little bit more about solar. Do you guys like this proposal or?
Yeah, I think so. I'd like to take it home and study it a little bit more.
So if we can have some comments back at the next
Okay,
Yep.
meeting. Because the longer we wait, like,
that's this one.
for example, like the panels,
Yeah.
they're limited for
Well,
what's available.
yeah, then that's what's gonna happen if we end up too long, them panels that they've got in are gonna be gone.
And it-
Well, and on the back side,
Yeah.
it has a breakdown of how much each of the groups involved have paid for their 2024 utilities. The only ones that are not exact are the store and the senior center. Everybody else reported their doc numbers to me. And it has the percents of the total with or without the store included. And then over here, it has the plan of what the next steps would be if we get a motion to connect with the groups and see which proposal, or
Okay.
if you have a proposal you want to give them.
All this stuff that we're talking about here, this is all Canadian made.
It depends on who you go with. From Terra Alta, it's Canadian made mountings and Chinese solar panels that are already landed.
Okay.
If it's the Dandelion Renewables, who I don't have their proposal yet, it's German made mountings and panels.
Okay. Doesn't come from US of A.
No.
Okay, 9.8 collaboration meeting.
Okay, so we'd like to get a motion for council to participate in the collaboration meetings, and the next meeting will be March 26th.
And back at Strathmore.
Yes, I believe so. I will confirm.
March
the
which?
time. March 26th.
I thought it was very good.
Mhm.
I think it's something that we need to do.
That's a step forward for sure.
Well, these small municipalities, we can't,
Yeah.
we need to have friends, I guess you say, or
Mhm.
people that we can
They
turn
work
to, right?
together for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
I will make a motion that we continue on with collaboration meetings. All in favor? Carried. Road signs.
I'm just thinking, there's no signage up on this end of town here. You come down Frederick and you have the 3rd Street sign, but there's no sign indicating Frederick Avenue there.
At
So-
the end? At the end of Frederick, or?
Anywhere on Frederick,
There's no street sign
beyond,
in
beyond
this.
2nd.
Oh, okay.
So I'm thinking on the corner of Third Street and Frederick should be a Frederick sign there.
Well, that,
Considering we're gonna have a lot of deliveries coming, we need to have,
Okay.
just a thought.
well, and that's something that staff should be just going and
Yeah.
looking, right? Notice that there's no signs,
Yeah.
bring it back and.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Hey, you want a motion of some sort on that, or?
We'll add it to the budget, sure.
Okay,
Somebody want
sure. I'll make that motion.
The motion to,
to?
Well, I'd like to,
Get signs for the new
Any-
subdivision.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need a motion because you're spending money, right?
all in favor? Carried. Reports. The DEMSA.
Last Wademsa meeting was February 18. We talked with some folks, the fire chief there. Talked about the dispatch agreement. We creating a new agreement with the town of Strathmore and the other municipalities with Wademsa, between Wademsa on the service they're getting and what's being provided. Those agreements exist in other jurisdictions, they don't here, so we're gonna work toward building those agreements. Yeah, so Strathmore wants a special one because they want to include the mapping of their hydrants. The next gen 911 testing will be very soon. So we'll find out more about those agreements. Ryan is doing well in his new role. It was interesting that the call volumes are down this month again. The ambulance that hit the deer in October is back on the road. We are going to look at our strategic plan. We got to get building our strategic plan. So it's a year away from accreditation. So we've got a year to build it. Mostly staff will do that. The price for talent acquisition. So to hire a new CAO is going to be in the range of 21 to 39,000. So we might just pay that. We have the funds, we could just pay that. Which means we have to put together a CAO job description for Wademsa, which is kind of a big job. So there's just a lot to do with very little staff. So right now our costs are $8 per person year. Our costs will stay the same. Yvette.
Yeah.
For this year, we'll keep it the same. The next meeting is April 7th.
Would WHMB was February 20th. Let me get there. We have our CAO has given notice of her resignation or retirement, I should say, not resignation. She's retiring in January of 26.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, this is the
Supervisor.
yeah.
Nikki Cook. We are already looking, we're trying to get new hire in very soon because we want her to start basically training, and we want her in before the next, in November or whatever, after the next election. It depends on who's there, right? We've kind of already had a succession plan in place, so if we have a whole new board come in, they're not gonna know. We had inspections done. I was at them at the manor over here, went through all 4 units and be replacing some flooring in some of them and stuff as needed. Resident and family feedback survey of 2024 was done, and everything actually went very well with that. Preventative maintenance was done in the lodge. Lots of repairs in both boiler rooms. Next meeting is March 20th. Larry.
February 20 was the last meeting. And at that meeting, we discussed several things. One of the things was they did an inspection of the facility and found some discrepancies in safety issues and things. So they are being addressed. They're cleaning that up pretty quickly. The other issue, we did talk a little bit about GFL at that meeting as well. There have been other issues prior to what we're experiencing now. And the other thing was we were talking about, they got the extension from Circular Materials for starting the new recycle thing that's going on. That's an ongoing thing. I don't think it's gonna happen this year. It's gonna take quite a while to get that implemented. So there's nothing to worry about there. Next meeting is April 24.
FCSS, Richard.
Meeting was on February 26th. Our next meeting is on March 26th. A couple of the points that we were dealing with is WFCSS is actually looking at doing a collaboration with Community Futures for some of their programs, just to kind of spread out and spread the word between entrepreneurs and those in the community. They've done a community needs assessment to see if we're kind of meeting the right target model that we want to. Wheatland County Agricultural Project Partnership. They're looking at kind of spreading with some of the agricultural community, making contact with them and reaching out to them to make sure they're see if they have any needs as well. And that's kind of it for us for that.
WRC, February 19th was our last meeting. I've got just really good news. Our budget's done. It's the earliest ever. But the really good news is our main operator, Keenan, is cancer free.
Awesome.
Yeah, considering what was it, a year ago, the outlook was not good. So as far as I know, he's thinking he's coming back to work Monday, and I told him that's between you and Leah and your disability insurance company. So that's the best news that I've got
That is
out
good
of there.
news. Yeah.
We have hired a young girl in town from here as an entry level. So she's going to start doing some training and hopefully we can work her into the company.
You live right here in town?
We're here in town. Yeah, and wants to stay here.
A young lady walking up and down
Yeah.
the street every morning.
Yeah, they actually should have put out a notice that we have a new face on the block. We actually have hired, being we've got another guy going in for surgery and we're not 100% sure when Keenan is coming back to work. We were looking at having a contractor come in because we have to have a level 3 person here once a week or whatever it's government rules, right? So they have to come in and inspect things. And so we have actually a young, or I don't even actually know how old he is. He's kind of signed an agreement right now. He's going to work part-time. So he's a level 3 operator working up north, lives in Strathmore. So he's coming in and helping us out. So we're not using Drumheller anymore. And then see what happens down the road. Maybe he'll fit in and then we don't need to ever contract Drumheller again to do this because it costs us a lot of money. Annual general meeting is March 26th. And our next meeting is April 16th. So the annual general meeting is at the water plant. Community futures.
So our last meeting was February 6th. We're currently moving ahead with the development of our basement to try to increase some revenue and bring us more clientele. We've actually had a lot of interested parties look into that. There have been some unexpected increase in costs. Didn't realize that they had to have certain grade fire resistant windows, walls, everything else, because we're going to be doing the walls individually. However, CF head office has said they do not see a problem with any additional costs and they're willing just to absorb that. So that's a positive for us. We're still moving forward with our bridging the gap loan, which we signed for the new builders. And we've got a couple other projects in the works that as soon as I get some more information, I can bring that forward. And our next meeting is March 13th, tomorrow.
Library, Larry.
Last meeting was March the 3rd. Next meeting is April 7th. They're working on their golf tournament. They're gonna get that up and running again this year. The other thing they talked about besides the lease agreement was policies. They're just about done getting all their policies up to date.
That it?
That's it. April 7th is the next meeting.
Solar proposal, I think we're done with it.
Yep, that's done.
Personal fee stats.
In the package.
REMP, you have a meeting tomorrow. So would somebody move to accept reports as information?
We'll make that motion.
Carried. All in favor, sorry. 11, yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at. 11.1 bylaws and policies.
We table some stuff. Get out of here.
Are you're need to get out?
I don't need to.
You know, this section here is 30 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Move to adopt policies from February 12th. I will move. All in favor. Carried. So we want to move to accept the new policies.
I'll move to accept the new policies.
All in favor. Carried. Budget 2025 draft 3.
Still the same, but a couple of items to take into consideration. We are getting at the final end of our internet for free sorry.
The free installations.
Free installation with the antenna. Does council wish to continue that for residents? It would be 18, hang on a second, 18 antennas. We still have 7 left to go, but those are the like free installation and antenna. But otherwise than that, they're $450 each. Is council interested in doing more? 18 would be 8,100, or we have to come up with another plan.
Can we use that county funding for that?
Oh. Oh, sorry, we can't discuss that yet.
Oh, okay, sorry, oh,
But-
yeah,
So something to consider, okay? And of course, the water rates for the WRC came down, so that's kind of good. So we'll have that put into the budget. But I would like to possibly suggest maybe we have a special budget meeting.
Yeah.
that'd be good.
So, because we're at that point where we need to start,
What are you thinking?
well, not the end of the month, because now we got that collaboration meeting.
No, the rest of my month does not look good.
Yeah, audit presentation is on the 9th of April. And then you have. What about the 4th? Well, it'd be after the next council meeting anyway, so, okay, so we'll just keep that into consideration. I can't see the date on that one, sorry.
10th, 11th, is that?
No, the 23rd. Oh, that will be Community Futures meeting, is it?
On
April
April,
23rd?
Well, why don't you send out an email?
Okay.
Come up with some dates,
some
send out
dates.
an email and we'll go from there. Okay. Counselors' concerns, if nobody has any.
I have a couple of. There's a big pothole down at the end of south end of Second when it connects to Christian Avenue there.
Second and Christian?
Yeah, huge pothole there. And I noticed on Third Street in front of the empty lot, one lot that's not sold, there's a couple of frost heaves on the sidewalk. Could be a tripping hazard. They may settle back down, I don't know, but
They should.
just something to be aware of.
Mhm.
Anybody else? We want to move to accept counselors' concerns.
I'll move to accept council
All in
concerns.
favor? Carried. Move to go in closed session.
Can you read the motions that are there? And then we'll mute.
Read motions on the right in the closed session.
3, move to go in closed session under FOID Division 2, exceptions to disclosure for
Okay.
section 27.
Okay, move to go in closed session under FOIP Division 2 exceptions to disclosure. 13.1 for section 27 for privileged information. 13.2 for section 21 disclosure harmful to intergovernmental relations. 13.3 for section 29 information that is or will be available to the public, and that's personnel.
Okay, I'm gonna mute. council mic. Okay,
Actually, that is the only, I did find that out. It is the only motion you can make in the camera or in closed section.
but it's not necessary.
It's not necessary.
Yeah, you just
It's coming out.
Just come out, yeah.
So
Coming up.
return, it's a return to regular session at 9:48.
Okay, who wants to make that motion? The agreement with the county,
Agreement.
Yeah, I'll make that. Yeah.
Free Bunny, all in favor,
Accept.
carried.
Except with the,
I remember how to word
and
it.
add the telecommunications and energy systems
With additions.
with additions.
Everybody handed them sheets back in.
Yep.
We want to adjourn.
I'll adjourn.
Thanks.
All right.
And street.
9:50.